Hey everyone, this is Jeff Risdon with the Detroit Lions podcast and Lionswire. And in lieu of a live show this week, we're going to do something of a mailbag. Right, yeah. So Chris and I unfortunately just can't get our schedules to work at the same time where we can do a live show that would last longer than 10 minutes. So I threw it into our Patreon Slack channel the other day, the smartest Lions chat on the internet. It's true. And threw out there some questions that people might have about training camp, which came to an end for fans yesterday. I'm recording this on Thursday. It is August 15th. So went through all the training camps that are open to the public. We do get a couple of practices next week, which are not technically training camp, but they are technically practices ahead of the final preseason game. But it still feels like camp. But for all intents and purposes, camp ended today or yesterday. So a lot of these are more overarching questions that I got. So there's some very good ones in here. So I did actually pre-screen some of these. So a few of these are going to be like conglomeration questions. Easy for me to say, I think. Where a lot of people ask sort of the same question in a different way. And we'll just lead with the first one because it's one that came up a few times in here. Brian Branch. A lot of questions about Brian Branch and his positional usage. Ladies and gentlemen, he is your starting safety. He and Kirby Joseph will be your starting safeties. He is not playing the slot hardly at all in camp. He played maybe, and this is just going off the top of my head, maybe 5% of his reps were in the slot. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they love him at safety a lot more than they like him at slot. And they also added a bunch of dudes who are much improved in the slot outside of what Branch was last year. Branch was great. No doubt he would still be great there. But, I mean, Ennis Rakestraw playing in the slot. Amik Robertson has looked so much better than I expected playing in the slot because I've watched him do it in Las Vegas, and he wasn't good at it. He's been very solid at that this summer. Terrion Arnold can kick inside from time to time. Kendall Vildor has looked very good in the slot when he's been given reps, although he primarily plays outside. They have a lot of options in the slot that they didn't have a year ago, and they don't have nearly that many options at safety, which is why Branch is going to be moving back to the more important position in Aaron Glenn's defense. That is the playmaking safety role that is tailor-made for exactly what he was coming out of Alabama. So you're going to see him there, and you're going to see, yeah. That actually leads to one of the other questions here, and I'm not going to scroll down to find it, but one of the questions that has come up a lot is the linebacker usage. And are we going to be more of a real 4-3 team rather than a 4-2-5 base team? And this ties into the question that, who asked it? It's not important. I can't find it off the top of my head there, but a lot of questions about Derek Barnes playing the Sam role. Yes, he is the Sam. He is going to be pretty good at the Sam, in my estimation. Saw a lot of improvement from him there. And they do, I don't want to say that it was like an even split, but there's a lot more usage of three linebackers with Barnes specifically as the Sam, which is kind of plays as a pass rushing role, but there's also a lot of dropping in coverage and reading and reacting to it he's thrived at. It's what he played at Purdue, doing very good at. It's a lot similar to what he played at Purdue, I should say. It's not exactly the same, but there's a lot of looks where it almost looks like a 5-2 defense with Barnes being able to morph back into like if the tight end flexes out from being in line, he goes out with them. But if not, he's going to rush them or chuck them on the way to the quarterback. And that is something we're seeing more, where there are more sets where there are 4 DBs on the field than there used to be. And that's, again, by design. It also sort of suits the personnel pretty well. because Barnes is really taken to that Sam role. Now, the depth at Sam, and that is another question here. I was asked about Betts and Houston from Big West. I think Houston and Betts both have proven they can't play Sam linebacker, and I wonder if they are worth keeping on the 53. It's just situational edge rushers, and that's a nice little segue there into the fact that the Sam depth is rough behind Barnes. Right now, if the season started today, I would guess it would be Mitchell Agude that would be that role, but he's just started taking that over this week. So Jack Campbell would probably get some looks there, and you could bring in with the linebacker depth that they have with Rodrigo and Germ. They might see that and where they would move Campbell back to that, although he didn't do very well there as a rookie. Not totally on him. I don't think they gave him enough training to do it well, but Big West, you're right. Houston really couldn't play there. As much as they have tried to get him to be more than just a grossly undersized at 6'1" and 240 some pounds speed rusher. Like look at the other ends on the roster. Marcus Davenport, he's like 6'6". Hutch, 6'7". Josh Pascal's 6'4", 6'5", maybe. Anzarike is massive at he's pushing 300 pounds and gets a lot of playing outside. They value length so much there, and Betts has that length. He's just not that great of an athlete, and I do not expect Mathieu Betts to make the roster. I just don't. I had some hopes for him coming out of Canada with all the sacks that he got up there, but it's a different game, and it shows. He just doesn't have that level of technical prowess and athleticism to handle it in the NFL, from what I've seen throughout camp. So Houston is a tough one. We've had a lot of conversations in the media amongst ourselves, like in the media room and on the sidelines and in private conversations off to the side about what in the world is going to happen with James Houston. And I'll be straight from the stop here. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with James Houston yet. As Aaron Glenn said in the press conference yesterday, Wednesday, the last practice for the fans, he's not playing Sam. Like that experiment has come and gone. And Dan Campbell's also said that, and it's good because he wasn't doing well at it. The rub with that is he's got to be great as a pass rusher in order to justify a roster spot, because he's not good on special teams. He never has been. He's something of an injury risk. He can't play this weekend because he's got a knee problem. Has missed all week of practice, missed some time last week, like coming off of an injury that cost him just about the entire 2023 season. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of reasons why he wouldn't make it on the roster. And he's running out of time to show that he can answer those questions with, hey, I am the best speed rusher on this team. I can get to the quarterback. I offer a dimension that is valuable and nobody else can do it on this roster. He's true. He's right about that. Nobody else could do that. I don't think Agude can, although he might be able to. But if he can't show that he's rushing the passer that well, and this is just my speculation, and I actually talked about this before with Chris, I believe. If not, it was one of the other solo buddies. You can check the archives on the YouTube channel or your favorite podcast provider. That's why we have you like and subscribe so you can find these things. I think he's a trade candidate because I don't think that he is that dynamic of a pass rusher coming off the injury and with the very limited role. That's not something that this team tends to value, and have told us that in a number of different ways with a number of different players. Is he worthy of the exception? He might be. He could be. I wouldn't put it past him. He showed the talent in 2022. But I think he's going to be more valuable to another team. So my bold prediction. Get your timers and split it ready so you can have this so you can throw it in my face later when it doesn't happen, because it probably won't. It's just my speculation. I think they're going to try to trade him at the deadline and flip him for a They got him for a 6th-round pick. Get back their initial investment on it. I don't think that they would get more than that. Maybe they would. I don't know. With like Matt Judon went for a 3rd, but Atlanta has to pay him, and he's a lot older, a lot more proven. I think probably a conditional 6th or 7th-round pick, or to bleed into a lot of the other questions dealt with the wide receivers. Maybe they swap him for a guy who's not going to make it as a wide receiver, who's better than our current wide receiver 4, which might be Doris Fountain. It might be Bill Jones. It might be Caden Davis. It might be Isaiah Williams. We don't really know. We don't really have any semblance of knowing that yet. That could happen. Just to go to my wheelhouse, one of the teams that I've covered in the past, the Houston Texans, they're going to cut a wide receiver that's better than any of those guys. I don't know who that's going to be out of Houston, but they got too many wide receivers down there. They could use somebody who could back up Will Anderson as a pass rush specialist type of edge. Now, Will Anderson does a heck of a lot more than James Houston does, but if he were to go down or if they needed to rest him or something, Houston kind of fits the Houston defense, no pun intended. So just throwing that out there as an abstract idea. I have absolutely no inside information on that. I want to make that clear. But it wouldn't surprise me if they try to move it and get a wide receiver back. So, that's a potential solution. If they don't, it's going to be tough for him to make it. Because he's missed so much time. This is the time where he needs to be showing them that he can beat Colby Sorsdal, Dan Skipper, Giovanni Manu in practices. And to be frank, he hasn't done that this summer consistently. Now, maybe shifting him back to a full-time pass rush only role will help him in that regard because he won't be thinking as much. He's not like, I don't have to read the tight end on this play. I can just go. But it's been hit and miss, even when he's been in like pit drills where, you only have go beat the guy, go beat that tackle. He had some success, but he's also had some where it was like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't know Giovanni Manu could throw a human that far. Like, that's sort of where we're at with James Houston. So, I don't know. There's potential. There's ideas there. But Betts, I am not expecting to stick around. Wish him well in going back to Canada, or if he wants to try to latch on with another NFL team. He's a tough one for the practice squad, though, because he's older. I believe he's 29 years old, and he's not going to get any more athletic than he already is. And I think the athletic limitations are what's going to stop him from making the roster. So that may be one of those where it's just, you tried and it didn't work. Sucks, but that's sort of the way it goes. Look at some of the other questions here. I like this one. This is from Ben. Special team shift. Do you think they will relieve Kalif Raymond of his return duties to increase his role in the receiving plan? Okay, this is a good segue question because there's all this talk about who's wide receiver 3. I will tell you in no uncertain terms, the Detroit Lions have their third receiver in their eyes. It's Leaf. Like, you ask that question to a couple of different coaches, they'll look at you like you're stupid. Like, of course he's our number 3. Why wouldn't he be? That's the tone that you get when you bring things up like that behind closed doors with some members of their coaching staff. Like, it was, I actually thought that the one who was like reach out, like slap me, like, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, Leafs are 3. Come on. So you might not like to hear that answer, but that's the Lions' answer. And that's unequivocal. He is their number 3 receiver. Whether you like it or not, that's where it goes, man. But yeah. As for return duties, he's still repping a lot as the primary punt returner, although Maurice Alexander and Isaiah Williams are both right there with him. Vaki, by the way, not getting return reps very often. He will get the occasional kick return rep, but he is at his best on the coverage side of special teams, where he could live in Pro Bowls soon. He's that good, and they have a great one in Germ. Jalen Reeves-Maben. They have a pretty darn couple of good ones, actually, in Malik Jefferson and Ben Neiman Marcus. I knew that. And actually, like, Kendall Vildor's been pretty good on special teams. Khalil Dorsey. There's a lot of dudes on the special teams. I expect the special teams coverage units to be very good. Very good. Return-wise, Leafs in that mix. We have seen some Saint returning punts and a little bit returning kicks. JMO occasionally gets back there. Don't see many of the running backs, and some of that is the fact that Craig Reynolds does get some reps. Craig Reynolds, by the way, as strongly as I just declared Kalif Raymond as the Lions seeing him as the number 3 wide receiver, the gap between Craig Reynolds as the number 3 running back and the guys above him, Gibbs and Montgomery, is a whole lot smaller than the distance between him and Vaki, who is the number 4 running back. Like, it's not even worth having a conversation about in the Lions' eyes. You might want to talk about it, in the Slack or on social media or something like that. But in the Lions' eyes, that's decided, folks. So if you don't have Craig Reynolds and Kalif Raymond on your final 53-man roster, you're missing them. Just the way it is, whether you like it or not. Or to quote the great Jesse James Dupree from Jackal, whether you like it or whether we don't, that's the way we like it. I'm done singing now. Jackal, by the way, really good live band most of the time. I've seen them 3 times. The third time, I saw a little bit more than I needed to from Jesse James Dupree. But that's a conversation for when Chris and I get a live show together and we turn into 14-year-olds. Yeah. All right, we'll keep rolling here with a couple of new questions. This is from Ken in Mulberry. Thank you for the question. Jake Fromm, he gets signed this week. Not Jake from State Farm. By the way, he's not a fan of that joke. I didn't ask it. It wasn't me. Swear to God, it wasn't me. Can he perform better than Sudfeld? I'll just say straight out, no, he's not. So when Hooker came back to the last practice, Fromm did not get a single rep. He was working off on the second field, basically like throwing the ball to guys on the side to keep them warm. Did not get a single third-team rep. He's a camp arm. That's what he is. He knew that coming in. I think he's pretty comfortable with that. So I humbly predict he will not be on the roster after the Kansas City game. They could actually not even take him. It depends on Hooker's health. Right now, it sounds like Hooker is going to play Saturday against the Chiefs. We'll see. It seemed fine yesterday. Well, he seemed healthy yesterday. His game wasn't all that great, but he missed a few days. I get it. The rest was there. Nobody actually asked about this, but I'll just spin off into another thing here because this does get discussed a lot on social media and even in the Slack as well about Hooker. I think he's QB2. I think he's going to be a good QB2. I also hope that we don't need to see him other than in mop-up duty or maybe starting week 18 because we've wrapped up the NFC North and we need to, rest our players. Don't want to risk injury. I'm good with that. That's sort of what happened with Patrick Mahomes back in the day. Remember with the Chiefs? Came out at the end of his rookie season. He started the last game in place of Alex Smith, and the Chiefs were like, oh yeah, we got something here. And it was the end of Alex Smith. And 2 Super Bowls later, years of success later, I don't expect that for Hendon Hooker, but I do think that he's going to do fine in the NFL. There's certainly no concern on my part that he can come in and operate the offense for a quarter or two if Goff gets injured in a game. He can do that better than Nate Sudfeld. Now, it's not going to be clean. He's going to miss some throws. He's going to probably throw an interception or two, make a couple of gaffes that are like, holy crap, what have we done? It's life with a young quarterback. Insert your age joke here. I'm not going to laugh at it. That was my Ash impression. Thank you very much. I have a lot of confidence in Hooker. Now, I was one of the people, I liked him a lot in the draft. I was somebody who had him as a first round grade before his injury. So, yeah, I want to see him do great. I love the guy. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a great prospect still. This summer's been a little discouraging on that front that he hasn't advanced as far as we would like him, but story's far from written on him. I think it's going to be a good long-term backup for Jared Goff, and we'll see what we got in a couple of years. I don't know. Yeah, there's bad days. There's absolutely been bad days. Nothing as bad as what I saw from Sudfeld in New York, though, and I don't ever want to see that again, and I don't need to see that again. If you want to go back in time, you can check the YouTube archives here of the Detroit Lions podcast channel and look for my short where I went off when Brad Holmes re-signed Nate Sudfeld last year. Brad Holmes does a lot of incredible things with his team. His eye for veteran backup quarterback talent is not good. Every Superman has his kryptonite, I guess. That might be Brad's. Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Mike H. asks about the running back situation. How do you feel the carries between Monty and Gibbs will shake up? This is a difficult question because I do think it depends on the opponent and the game situation. Just as an example, they're gonna run a lot more against certain opponents. Probably a team like Chicago. I can see them running a lot against more run-focused attack against a team like Minnesota that's weak up the middle on defense. That's Monty time. There will be games, I think the Arizona game will be one where you're going to see a lot more of Gibbs. If you're asking this from a fantasy perspective, Gibbs is probably the more valuable fantasy guy because he's going to catch a lot of passes. Parenthetically, he will also drop a lot of passes. He led all running backs in drops last year. Most Lions fans don't know that or want to hear it, but he didn't have a great receiving year as a rookie. Now, he's done a lot better this offseason. They have put more receiving duties on his plate, and he has handled them very well before he got injured in camp. I think he can get 60 passes this year. I think he can score 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 receiving touchdowns. I think he will rush for about 1,000 yards. I do think Monty will rush for more yards. Just my prediction. If they both play in all 17 games, I think Monty will wind up rushing for more, but Gibbs will have more total yards and touchdowns. I can actually see Craig Reynolds being a bit of a touchdown vulture for the red zone, which sort of takes away from Monty more than it takes away from Gibbs, but we'll see. Craig's had a fantastic camp. He really has. I don't hide the fact that I'm a Craig Reynolds fan, but man, he's so great this summer. It's very nice to have 3 perfectly capable starting running backs. And there is a stratification between what Monty and Gibbs offer you than what Craig does. But man, I've watched a lot of Lions teams where Craig Reynolds would have been running back 1 and we all would have been happy about it. A lot of them. Pretty much the Schwartz era and Caldwell era, other than that one brief shimmer with Joyke Bell when he was great, and Reggie Bush. Really wish that would have worked. That one still bugs me. I really thought it was going to work better. Nothing against Reggie. He was good, but I thought it would be better. I think we got a very good combination of running back. And if you're doing it in fantasy, again, it's going to be, are you in a points per reception league? Are you valuing touchdowns or are you valuing yardage contributions? As a football team, I think it's going to be pretty close in splits, but I do think that Mathieu would get more carries. But if you total carries and receptions together, I think Gibbs might get a handful more, maybe 20 more. Again, that's if they all play all 17 games. Good question, though. It's nice to have these problems with too many, not enough footballs to go to all the talented players on offense. Yeah. From Robin, I'd like to hear more about the final spots, or how the final spots are shaking out at tight end and wide receiver. And then he also asked, do you think James Houston's 6th round? And I kind of answered that one already. I wish I knew. I'll say this. I think the Lions wish they knew that answer too, Robin, because I don't think they know it yet. I really don't. It's getting close to being time where they got to know that answer. Wide receiver and tight end. So Leaf is 3, J-Mo's 2, Saints 1. 4, I don't know, man. It could have been Reese Fountain. He kind of bobbled that away. Like that, he got so many first team reps, so many chances to seize it, and he just didn't. He came close, but left that door open. Donovan Peoples-Jones was the guy that the Lions expected that to be. Hasn't seized it. Hasn't been there. He's been behind Fountain, both in terms of repping with the first team and also in like the eyeball test. He's a great athlete. He's a super smart guy. It feels like though that there was always like a governor on his engine for whatever reason with DPJ. I saw it in Cleveland firsthand for a couple of the different training camps where everybody was super excited about him down there being wide receiver 3 behind Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. And other than 1 year after those guys left and he was with Amari Cooper, it never really worked out there either. And he's running out of chances with it. He's not good enough on special teams to keep around as a number 5 receiver over somebody like Isaiah Williams, who can offer you long-term upside as a backup slot and also return duties. I don't know where the Lions are on valuing that. There are a couple of people in the Lions media who will tell you right now that A, the Lions are only keeping 4 receivers, and B, the number 4 receiver is not currently on the roster. I don't agree with that, but I understand their point. I do think that the number 4 wide receiver is on this roster. I think it's either going to be Reese Fountain or Isaiah Williams, but it also could be Caden Davis if he can continue to play the way he has lately. He's been all over the map in camp. It could be Traquan Smith. Traquan, in my eyes, and I'm not alone in the Lions media in seeing this or saying this, has gotten ahead of DPJ in terms of repping with the second team and doing something with those reps. He and Hooker have a nice little chemistry, nice little combination there. He is a more dangerous guy with the ball in his hands once he catches it than DPJ is, or Fountain for that matter. But he's got some work to do to ensure that he would get that spot. So I don't know about he's going to be a tough one to, because he's another guy. He doesn't do much on special teams. And do you keep a 5th wide receiver and not keep special teams? I talked about it a little bit in the Houston section earlier. I do think there's an opportunity for the Lions to make a trade for a wide receiver. Who will it be? I don't know. That's above my pay scale. But there will certainly be some interesting guys to monitor especially after this coming weekend, because this tends to be the last time that any team's going to play starters. And if they get through this healthy and they're like, well, man, this guy is just not, like, it's a veteran who's got some size, but we have a young guy who's going to be cheaper that can do the same thing and is wide receiver 5 or 6 for us. You know what? Detroit needs a wide receiver. Let's get a 7th round pick out of Brad Holmes for it. Can absolutely see that happening. We'll see on that. I do think, though, that Fountain and or Smith are going to be opening as wide receiver 4, and Williams, if he's the kick returner and he could win that gig, I don't think that gig has been decided yet. He does have enough upside there, and he also has enough upside as a backup slot and a guy that can occasionally do some gadget things out of the backfield. Remember, he was a quarterback in Illinois. Now, he wasn't a good quarterback in Illinois, but he did play the position for a long time. Just saying that Ben Johnson's creativity and the mad scientist that is Dave Phipp and Dan Campbell, maybe they'll find some things to do there. I don't know. Just a thought. Tom Kennedy's Tom Kennedy. Thanks for your summer, and hope you enjoyed your paycheck. I love Tom. I freaking love Tom Kennedy. I really do. He's never going to be better than what he is right now, and what he is right now hasn't been good enough the last 3 years on receiving cores that, teams with lowered expectations. He just couldn't ever do much with it. God bless you, Tom. I'd latch on with the Colts or something like that. With the Bears, maybe. I don't want to wish you on the Bears. Pittsburgh, maybe. Pittsburgh would be a good spot. We'll see. Yeah, that's now the tight ends. To answer the other part of the question, this is another one that we in the media talk about on the sidelines when we're. Great example was yesterday, Wednesday's practice. First team offense. The only tight end on the field on the first 3 reps is Parker Hesse. Now remember, Sam Laporte is out, so he's number 1, obviously. Brock Wright is clearly number 2. Like, there's no question about that. Brock Wright had a really bad day Wednesday. Doesn't matter. He's tight end 2, and I'm good with that. I think he's going to be good there. I think he's going to be a very good tight end 2. Probably not worthy of fantasy drafting, but he's had a good summer. He really has. Hesse has gotten more first-team reps than any of the other guys, and the other guys being Shane Zylstra, James Mitchell, and Sean McKeon. Hesse is almost always the guy that they use when they need a fullback. That matters because they don't have a fullback on the team, and the Rodrigo experience there sounds like that's done. I liked it, personally. I know Rodrigo liked it. He's told me that, but yeah, just not where they're going with that. So, good shout out to Huge. Thanks for letting me host the show a couple weeks ago. You can see me more in there too. Thanks to Bill. He's done a lot of help for me, and also for this podcast, representing it very nicely. So, thanks to Huge. Yeah, good. So I think Hesse is tight end 3. Then you get into a situation, and he's also been good on special teams, and that certainly matters for this. James Mitchell, 5th-round pick a couple years ago. He has the most potential of the remaining 3 guys. He's also far more consistently not living up to that potential than the other 2, being Zylstra and McKeon are in McKeon. I don't know how you say that one. I should learn that. I should know that. I went to Kansas at Michigan where he was playing. That brain cell died. But anyways, I wonder on Mitchell, because they do have some skin in that game. It's sunken cost. And the Lions are pretty good about understanding the concept of sunken cost and the fallacy of the sunken cost, which, by the way, is a fantastic Freakonomics radio episode. I don't do a lot of other alternate podcasts. I do listen to Freakonomics radio podcasts religiously. They did a great one on sunken costs and the fallacy of it and how it hurts companies and businesses, which the Lions would be. And just drawing back on that, now that I actually listened to that driving home from the combine this year from Indianapolis. And I will say that he fits the bill of something that you should probably let go of with the fallacy of the sunken cost, because he's just not developed into what he should be by this point. Zylstra is a better receiver. McKeon is a better blocker. Do they decide between those 2? They're both, the thing with Zylstra is he's the best receiver of that foursome that's competing behind Wright and Laporte. And it's not even close, really. But his blocking is like he is such an inferior blocker to the other 3 that you almost can't have him on the field blocking, because your run game won't work because he's not going to get it done. And pass protection, if he ever has to stay in, is not going to go well. It's just not. I don't know where the Lions value that, to be frank. special teams is kind of a wash. I would say, from my observations, that Mitchell is probably a better special teams player, but not emphatically enough that he would win the job because of that. And that's sort of where we're at with the so I do think Hesse's going to make it. I think that last spot comes down to Zylstra or Mitchell and what they value and what they're looking for. And as of not this week, but before they left for New York, I can tell you they had not made that decision yet on what they're prioritizing there. Maybe they have made it now. I have not talked to that person since then, but we'll see. Wrapping up with one final question here, because I do plan on also doing another video previewing this weekend's Chiefs game, which parenthetically I will not be able to see. I can't count on seeing it. But at Lionswire, Billy Rossetti is taking over for the weekend for me. He's actually appeared with us and fed us questions down in Mobile several years in a row. He's a outstanding dude. He's going to do a good job. So check that out, and I will have some thoughts on it as soon as I can see the game. But last one, this is from Max. I'm interested in edge depth, specifically Ukwu and his Betts practice squad. We've talked about Betts. Ukwu is absolutely a practice squad guy, and with Deron Gilbert and Nate Lynn both being gone, there's a sliver of opportunity, and especially if the hypothetical James Houston trade that I discussed happens, there's a shot for him to make it. It's a long shot, and some of that is the fact that you go back to him in college, and like he was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, I believe, 2 years in a row, and it certainly shows. He is an athletic specimen. But at Ole Miss, he couldn't get on the field on a defense that wasn't great. He's always sort of been the looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane moniker has fit him. That was what happened with the Rebels. He's done a lot more than that. He looks a lot more like Tarzan and is playing more like Tarzan this summer, which is fantastic. Beat that chest, go get some sacks, number 45, and you can play your way onto the roster. He's certainly a keeper. Just on that front, and this is something that I literally just wrote at Lionswire before I started recording this on Thursday afternoon, rather. It is the 15th, about 3:45 in the afternoon. Hope you're enjoying it. Getting ready for some preseason football. Always a good time. Regular season's right around the corner. 53-man cut down coming soon. Not too soon, though. The Lions have had an undrafted rookie make it. I believe it's 13 years in a row. Go off the top of my head there. Who's most likely to make it this year? Ukwu has got a shot, but he's not my choice. Maurice Norris was a lot of people's choices. In fact, I asked that to both Mike Payton and Jeremy Reisman on the air, and he was who they told me when I was hosting a huge show. But alas, he's gone. His momentum didn't last. Sucks. Was a good guy. I liked him. I enjoyed talking to Maurice, and hope he resurfaces somewhere in the future. Zay Williams is certainly a possibility, but my guy is Hogan Hatton. And I think he makes it over Scott Daly as the long snapper on two things. Athletic upside. He made a play in that Giants game on the first Jack Fox punt where he flew down the field and was the first guy to get a hand on the returner and brought him to the ground. Scott Daly is an exceptionally accurate long snapper, but that's not what he does. He doesn't cover all that well. That had to be eye-opening. The other thing, he can play defense. He was a linebacker. He was a 3-year linebacker in college. He's got potential there. And that's one of those spots where he could be linebacker 6 in a game if all hell breaks loose on the front. Because the top 5 linebackers, we've talked about this before, they're set and they're good. They're real good. I feel very good about it. I have slight concerns about Jack Campbell still. Need to see a little bit more consistency out of him, but he's certainly earned the right to prove that. And I feel very good about Rodrigo and Germ as the backup lineman. Oh my God, those guys are starting on a lot of other teams, as role players, not like full-time guys, but we're good there. But if injuries happen to happen, Hatton could do it. So I think that gets him the job. So that's my pick. Subject to change, of course, between the injuries that are inevitably going to happen in the final 2 preseason games, and just performances and coaching whims, things like that. We'll see. Just one question that didn't get asked, but I know a lot of people talked about because I wrote about it earlier this week. I talked with Dave Phipp. I'll give John Macaron from SI a lot of credit too on the Detroit Sports Podcast. He and I basically got Phipp to ourselves for about 8 minutes, and then everybody else crashed in. And then I got a little bit of time with Phipp yesterday. The first conversation was Monday. Yesterday, I talked to Phipp briefly after practice and got a couple of off-the-record questions in. But Jake Bates is going to be the kicker, for better or for worse. Fingers across it is for the better. He was really, really good in the preseason game and the first day of practice, first 2 days of practice, Sunday, which is a practice I was not at, but he was perfect then. And Monday, he was perfect as well, and looked really good and looked confident. And that was nice to see. Struggled some yesterday, but they're going to roll with it. And one of the things that Phipp told us was, he needs reps. That's one of the reasons why they haven't brought another kicker in. And I voiced my counter argument to Phipp, and he actually gave me a very good off the record explanation. And it's off the record because my recorder didn't record it. Sorry, Dave. My bad. Yeah. But Bates will be the kicker. Don't expect anybody else to come in, and don't expect them to go shopping for a veteran kicker who might get cut either. Guess that ends it. With that, let's go Lions. Thanks for tuning in.